Hey guys, happy Thursday. Yes, baby Friday, as we call it around here. Welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on the show today, it's an end to an era. In this case, making reference to Nancy Pelosi. After nearly 4 decades serving in the House of Representatives, she's now throwing in the towel. We'll have the very latest. Speaking of the latest, well, we're talking about the government shutdown. It continues, but perhaps, finally, maybe so, an end in sight. We got the latest on that. And we're talking during our Thursday Talkers, all things girl shower. Heard about girl math? Well, it's somewhat similar, but somewhat not. I'll tell you one person who doesn't know about it, this guy. Tucker Barnes now joining us for the latest on the forecast. It's called girl shower.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint.
I thought you said girl shower, and then I was like, he didn't just say girl shower. But he did.
It's kind of hot, if you know what I mean. The water hot? Okay.
Guy, I'll stay tuned for the rest of your show.
Thank you, my friend.
You're standing right over there to learn more. Okay, let's do the forecast together. And I guess, have you teased the winter weather outlook?
No, we're going to have that later on in the show. I saw you and Taylor actually touched on that earlier today.
Yes, so we'll talk to you all about the winter weather outlook. I'll give you a hint. You may see just a few snowflakes this year. We see a lot of snowflakes. Yeah, we'll have more on that coming up.
Okay.
But let's focus on this afternoon, and we got much cooler. 70s yesterday, 50s will do it for daytime highs this afternoon. So about 15 degrees cooler than yesterday, and breezy out there. So, Guy, we're running out of days to enjoy the leaves before they blow away.
Yeah, shoot.
All right. Still beautiful, though. That's a live shot. You can see the trees are still putting on a show.
I like that one to the right. It's kind of orangish, reddish.
Yes. You get a little touch of yellow. This time of year is beautiful.
Picture perfect.
Right? 54. It's like this show when the two of us are on it. 53 Dulles. Again, upper 50s for daytime highs will do it. And we are featuring quiet conditions, although still you're not going to see this in the satellite. A pretty good breeze out of the north and west. So if you're out and about enjoying trees later this afternoon or out for a walk after work or school, that kind of thing, it will be a quiet afternoon, but it will be a breezy and cool afternoon for sure with temps in the 50s. And then cold tonight will be 30s for the most part by tomorrow morning. Nice warm up tomorrow. Let's talk weekend forecast quickly. Want to?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you don't have a choice because this is my time. Friday night, after football, after our high school games are over, we'll have some showers around. Let's call it 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m.
Okay.
There's good news in that, Guy, in that it will be out of here by Saturday morning. This is this afternoon, 58 degrees, and it'll be out of here by Saturday morning, and we should get some sunshine Saturday afternoon and be near 70.
I'll take it. That's
okay,
perfect.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
We wake up with showers Sunday morning. We should be done with the showers by late morning, which would mean drier conditions just in time for Commanders football Sunday at 4. 4:25, wow. I think it's kickoff.
Talking my language there.
Yep, so that's good news too. And then we get cold, real cold for this time of year. Highs only in the 40s, and a good hard freeze around here Monday, Tuesday. So just make sure you're ready, with your heavier jackets and stuff early next week.
All right, really looking forward to the weekend.
Me too.
All right, Tucker Barnes, all things weather right here on the Live Zone. Hey guys, if you haven't already done so yet, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take that amazing forecast with you any and everywhere you go. All right, we start the show by taking you live to the White House, where President Trump now addressing all things surrounding perhaps the government shutdown, now day 37. Let's go ahead and take a live look in.
Someday maybe it'll come out, which will notify you immediately. But so far I haven't heard that, including the drugs known as Zepbound and Wegovy, often called Ozempic. This is a triumph for American patients that will save lives and improve the health of millions and millions of Americans. Amazing thing. They are amazing. I want to thank Eli Lilly CEO David Ricks, a friend of mine. We've worked long and hard. He and I got this whole thing started in a way. And Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar for joining us today. Great talented people. They make a lot of money. I looked at the money, but they're entitled to the money because the companies are doing very well. Along with Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary Howard Lutnick. Do you take any of this stuff, Howard?
Not yet.
Okay, good. CMS Administrator Mehmet Oz, he doesn't take it. Food and Drug Administrator Commissioner Marty McCary, and Director of Medicare, Chris Klump. And we have Steve, where's Steve? Is he here? Head of public relations for the White House. He's taking it. The United States is just 4% of the world's population and consumes only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the American customer. I would say that's not so good, right? It's not exactly great. To address this chronic unfairness, I signed an executive order earlier this year instructing my administration to do everything in our power to implement most favored nations drug pricing, something that has been helped greatly by tariffs, because when nations refuse to do it, we should have put this in the case yesterday. I just say, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to charge you a like amount of tariffs. And they immediately say, we'll do it, which means that Americans should pay no more than the lowest price offered anywhere in the world. So that you've heard for years the disparity where you'll pay $150 for a pill in New York and you'll pay $10 for a pill in London. Now you're going to pay $20 both, because the world is a little bit bigger than the US, so it goes up that way, but you'll pay $20 and $20. A tremendous advantage to our country after years of being abused by the world system. Already Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and EMD, Serrano, have agreed to drastically lower their prices for American patients, and today Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are joining the phenomenal list of the most exciting announcements. I mean, nobody's ever had announcements like, and this has to do with other pharmaceutical products also, but we're covering this today because it's such a big seller. I guess it's the #1 selling thing there is today. These are two companies that behind the groundbreaking weight loss drugs that have helped millions of Americans struggling with obesity live better, longer lives, everything else. These are the two companies that really broke ground. Until now, neither of these two popular drugs have been covered by Medicare for weight loss, and they've only rarely been covered by Medicaid. They've often cost consumers more than $1,000 per month, and some a lot more than that. Americans have been spending as much as 520% more for Zepbound and 1,400% more for Wegovy than patients in Europe. Think of that. 1,400% more than a patient in Europe for the exact same box. And that ends starting today. The other countries are not happy with us. I don't think they like me too much, Bobby, but that's okay. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are committing to offer Zepbound and Wegovy at most favored nations rates for American patients. This will slash the cost of Wegovy from $1,350 a month to ultimately $250 a month. $1,350 to $250. Did I do a good job? They don't write about it. You know, they like to not write these things. And reduce, you think Biden could have done this? I don't think so. And reduce the monthly cost of Zepbound from $1,080 to $346. In addition, they're both committing that future GLP-1 weight loss drugs taken orally, which are currently under development, will be sold at no more than $149 per month. It's a massive, think of that. You go from $1,300 to $149 a month. We anticipate these new versions will be coming out in a very short period of time. All of these drugs will be available directly to the consumer at TrumpRx.gov. Trump, they want to use my name. Trump, it better be good. TrumpRx.gov. And I think it's turning out to be pretty amazing, right, us? Just as significantly, Medicare and Medicaid will finally cover the cost of these weight loss drugs for millions of patients suffering from obesity. Co-pays for Medicare patients will be as low as $50. This is tremendous savings. I mean, now you're talking about from $1,350 to $50. This is tremendous news for the American seniors. And you all remember when I had 1/8 of 1% for the year. I cut it 1/8, and I was so thrilled. But now we're cutting it 1,000%, 1,200%. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Nobody else could have done it, but I say that modestly. 1,000%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200%. 1,200 In addition, you think it was easy dealing with these people? It wasn't. You think it was easy saying your drug, Mr. Eli Lilly, that we're selling for $1,300 is going to be sold for $250? You know the amazing thing, the stocks all went up. I mean, these guys they're fantastic. Because it's going to equalize the world. The world's a bigger place, and it's going to equalize. I was a little surprised to see that, but I'm happy about it. In addition, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have agreed to provide all of their other medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. Most favored nations, meaning that you will pay the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's what you're going to pay. Whereas before they paid low prices and we paid, you know, thousands of percentile ahead more. And to sell these drugs to all consumers at deeply discounted prices via TrumpRx.com. When is TrumpRx.com opening?
The site is open. It will launch in terms of giving people prices before the end of the year.
Okay, got to make sure it's successful. It's got my name on it. I don't want to be like so many others. I don't want to be like the train they're building in California, okay, which has about 15,000% cost overrun. Or the beautiful Obama building that he's building in Chicago for the museum, which is now shuttered up and dead. They got it up, and they couldn't finish. It's about, would you say, 5 years behind schedule? And about 2,000% over budget. Then he tells us how to run Medicaid. Many of the most widely used drugs will be available for 60% off, or even more than that. In addition, all new medications introduced by Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to the American market will be sold at the heavily reduced most favored nations price. Most favored nations price, that's the best, because they have been thousands of percent lower than what we were selling in many cases. Furthermore, Eli Lilly is investing $27 billion. That's all? And Novo Nordisk will invest $10 billion. That's all? That's peanuts. In the United States to reshore and do a big domestic manufacturing job in the facilities they're going to spend. So Eli Lilly spent $27 billion. Novo is spending $10 billion in the United States. So they're building new plant and equipment. That's part of what will be $20 or $21 trillion this year. There's never been anything like it. I know nobody talks about it, but there's never been anything like, I would say, you would say, that there's never been anything like this ever, whether it's China or Europe, or you could take all of Europe, there's never been anything like this. So we're already past 17 trillion. We're going to be, I think by the time the year closes out, we'll have investments of over $21 trillion based on the way we're going. And by the way, tariffs are very important. Without tariffs, perhaps it could be a little bit different, to put it mildly. Tariffs are so important. The decision in the Supreme Court would be devastating to our country if we got a negative, devastating if we got a negative decision. But this is a great day for American health and healthcare, and for all of American patients. These are things that are miracles to have this happen. And they're, you know, we're bringing all our medicines, again, because of tariffs, we're bringing all our medicines. If you remember where during COVID, we made almost no medicine here. We had to go to China, we had to go to Ireland, we had to go to other places, UK, to get our medicine. We didn't make it here. Now we're making it, we'll soon be making it all here, again, because of tariffs. And my election, but because of tariffs much more. For years, politicians have talked about making healthcare affordable, but my administration is actually doing it. Americans deserve the best healthcare in the world, and we're now getting the best healthcare at the lowest price. So I'd like to ask somebody who's doing a fantastic job, Secretary Kennedy, to say a few words, followed by Dr. Oz, Dr. Klump, and then Eli Lilly, CEO David Ricks, and Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar. These are incredible stars in that business. Like Dustar is a big star. And I can tell you that David Ricks is one of the hottest people in the world in business, but the business that he's in is pharmaceutical. And the job he's done with Eli Lilly is incredible. Both of these gentlemen, they really are stars in the truest sense. And it's an honor to have you in the White House. And go to it, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking you, Mr. President, for declaring war on chronic disease in this country. This is something no American president has ever done. If we want to solve the chronic disease crisis, we have to tackle obesity. Obesity is the #1 driver of chronic disease. 50% of our adult population are obese or overweight. And it drives about 50% of healthcare costs in this country. Diabetes, cardiac diseases, we are going to see a decline because of this historic agreement. We're going to see a decline in costs, but also, more importantly, in the afflictions themselves. President Trump is the friend of the forgotten American. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly. And these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. At one point, the majority of prescriptions, the highest concentration of prescriptions in this country, was the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem? This will be a lifesaver to them. It's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that. We're about to release dietary guidelines that are going to change the food culture in this country. They're going to change the kind of food the military gets. They're going to change the kind of food that our children get. We're releasing those in December. The Presidential Council for Physical Fitness is going to get more Americans into, particularly our children, into physical activity so that we can attack the root causes of this. But in the meantime, there's nothing more important than we can do than lower this price. As I said, it is the #1 cost of all drugs. This is the biggest drug in our country. That's why this is the most important of all the MFN announcements we've made. This is going to have the biggest impact on the American people. All Americans, even those who are not on Medicaid and Medicare, are going to be able to get the same price for their drugs, for their GLP drugs. This happened because of the vision of David Ricks, of Mike Dustar, and the other people, and the people on our team who figured out a way to align the interests of the shareholders of their company with the health of the American public. And it is a momentous accomplishment. It took months and months of negotiations. And I had a wonderful conversation with Mike Dustar about his experience. And he thanked me for the caliber of people who are on our side of the negotiating team. Chris Klump, who walked away from $1 billion business in order to join this administration. Emma Hernandez, David Brooks, and of course, Dr. Oz and Marty McCary, who made this happen. They saw that this could be a win-win situation, that this was not a zero-sum game. The Biden administration tried to solve this problem unsuccessfully, I might add, by throwing $40 billion at it. And they were able to achieve an agreement that will actually create savings for the American public. So we're making all of this available at a savings, and that's because the price of diabetes prescriptions is also going to drop. And the savings that we get from that are now going to make it available to people who do not have diabetes, people who have a BMI of 27 and above, or are pre-diabetic or have heart disease risk. They will be able to get it, but everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. it is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country. And I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. He said that I'd gotten a lot done as HHS Secretary, but almost none of that is due to my ability. It's because I'm surrounded by people who are smarter than me, who are more able than me, and those people came into the administration because they were inspired by President Trump. People like Chris Klump are here because they see this.
You think they are smarter than you and
Yeah.
more able? No.
Believe me, they're a lot smarter than I am.
Why don't you take that job? He doesn't really mean that he's being modest, I promise you, but
It is true, unfortunately.
it's a beautiful thing.
But I want to thank you, Mr. President, because you've made me a success here by allowing me to attract these extraordinary people. And I want to again thank David Ricks, who we've been in this Oval Office again and again. You keep saying he's the smartest guy in industry, that he could talk a dog off a meat truck. But he came to the table, and Mike Newstar told me, he
Well,
said,
you convinced people for 20 years that it was okay for Europe to pay $10 and for America to pay $140. That's why they make 45, 50 million a year. He did. Finally, I said, I've had it, right? You did. He did. But anybody could do that, and they're entitled. But now it's down to what it should be.
and Mike Newstar told me what a pleasure it was to negotiate with people who were smart, who had common sense, who were able to put themselves in his position and hammer out this deal that is good for everybody. And it's great for the American public. I want to close again by just saying that this is a tool in the toolkit. It is not a silver bullet. It is an arrow in our quiver. It will allow a lot of people who are locked into high-risk obesity to finally lose weight, to reset, and then start doing the kind of things that will address the root causes of obesity. So I want to thank these extraordinary CEOs for sticking with us on this, for allowing us to make this happen. Mike Newstar said to me, he said, we've known we've had to do this for many years. We just haven't been able to get over the edge, and that this, President Trump's order, his executive order, was a catalyst to do something that we always knew needed to be done. So again, thank you for your vision, for your commitment, and thank you to all the CEOs and all of my team for making this historic agreement happen.
Bobby, you haven't changed your view on Tylenol for women that are pregnant?
No, as I said.
Because there were some false reports out about Tylenol that Bobby changed his view. I don't think he's changed.
I'm not going to change until the science changes, and the science does not look like it's changing. It's getting stronger and stronger. Every day, what we recommend is that pregnant mothers, talk to their physicians, that the mothers of small kids talk to their physicians, and we've advised the physicians to reduce the thresholds and to reduce the amount of Tylenol that they give to children as much as possible, and only use it when it's absolutely critical.
Thank you.
So we're going to go through some of the deal points, but it does make itself clear that the real stake here is the forgotten man. President Trump, I believe you won the election because you remember the forgotten man. You speak to them, they hear you, they listen to you, and he connects well because he actually does things that materially change their lives. Secretary Kennedy spoke passionately, as he always does, about the problems with obesity. And just to put some very fine point numbers on this, obesity itself is responsible for half of all chronic disease and definitely generates more than a quarter of all the money we spend out of CMS, the $1.75 trillion that we spend annually. We need to address this tempest of dramatically increasing prices for healthcare, and you're not going to do it just by throwing money at the problem. You have to actually literally deal with the causes of the increase in price, and pharmaceutical prices are a part of that. They've been a part of it for a long time, but this president insisted that we address it. In fact, the first time I heard this directly from you, sir, was in January at Mar-a-Lago, where he took Secretary Kennedy, myself, Mr. Ricks, who you'll hear from in a second, to dinner, and demanded explanations for most favored nation pricing and what's wrong with it. And there was not a good reason against it. Now, Maha is critical. America will have to get fit in order to right-size the healthcare system, and MAHA has the answers. It has obesity management through diet and exercise and sleep and dealing with issues related to that. And I want to say it as clear as I can, obesity is not an absence of GLP-1 drugs. We're all clear on that. But as Secretary Kennedy said, it is an arrow in our quiver that we must use and should use. The MAHA movement means making it easier for the right things to happen, easier for you to be healthy. If you're sitting at home and watching, that's what MAHA means to me. Reducing cost of the #1 most expensive medicine category in our country for Americans does just that. It is as MAHA as it gets. Today's the 4th MFN. President Trump highlighted the first 3. Leading U.S. company, leading European company. We've dropped in fertility drugs, so we'll make lots of Trump babies, I'm hoping, by the midterms. But it's really about fairness. Fundamentally, it's fairness in pricing to Americans who have been getting ripped off, paying 3 times more than their European counterparts for the exact same product made in the same factory, in the same bottle, in the same packaging. We shouldn't be paying 3 times more, and we are no longer doing that. Fairness to the forgotten man also means dealing with the reality that they can afford a life-saving, life-changing drug that 10% or more of affluent Americans take, but folks without means can't manage it. Secretary Kennedy mentioned New York City. Actually, the #1 zip code is the Upper East Side, which is where you have property. And folks who know ritzy areas buy important real estate there because those real estate properties are worth a lot there. That should not be the #1 zip code in America for purchasing GLP-1 drugs. It speaks to the fact that we have an innately unfair system that penalizes folks who can use these medications the most, folks in the Rust Belt. Now, what are you supposed to do if the right thing to do for your health is right there, but you can't afford to get it? Folks need to be able to utilize these life-saving medications, and being fair about its distribution is essential. And we are democratizing access to these medications and dealing with a moral imperative to make sure that all Americans have access to avoiding all the obesity-related complications by making sure they can afford, if they do things right, not just MAHA-appropriate interventions, but also medications like this. In fact, we think these deals, and this part's very important, we believe these deals within 2 years, by the time the ink dries on these contracts that were signed earlier today, within 2 years, based on our health improvements, we will be budget neutral. These drugs will not cost us money. The American taxpayers will be getting their money back. That's how important it is for us to reduce the cost of healthcare in this country, especially when it's due to preventable problems like obesity. In addition, we have an update, Secretary Kennedy. We thought it was 125 million pounds. Mr. President, our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 billion pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia, all the things we know are associated with obesity and much more. This wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the right tools and had the ability with a team that has been spoken of early. So I want to call out Abe Sutton. He's in the back right there. He leads the CMS Innovation Center. It made the deal possible. And they are announcing today a new model, a brand new model aimed at getting to the vulnerable populations amongst us these medications. The forgotten man will be able to afford these drugs now. Governors will be thanking President Trump. They should be calling directly, sir, because they're going to be able to afford Medicaid next year in ways unimaginable, and they will stop crowding out education and other civil services. We cannot be a wealthy nation without being a healthy nation. That's why today's MFN deal is a historic step forward for all America, and this is something that I don't think is partisan. There is no way you can argue against what just happened. These numbers to my side here, Administrator McCary, who's been instrumental in this process as well, $1,350 baseline. Chris Klump will go through the numbers, but just focus on that 245, which is what he's going to point you to. And Chris Klump has been an unbelievable leader, an innovator, you've heard his name before, he's spoken here before, but he is continuing to change the face of CMS, and I love the fact that with his leadership, we're bringing a lot of wonderful people in. Inma Hernandez has been mentioned, John Brooks as well, and many others, including Beth Kelly, who runs the legal issues around these issues, because these guys are barracudas, Mr. President. They will take you down, slice you in little bits. Howard's been there. It's no longer happening. You've got sharp folks. We're open for business. It's a generational opportunity to serve, and people are showing up. God bless you. Let me introduce now Chris Klump, who is just makes my life easier every day. I'm so proud of him.
All great deals are rooted in principles. We've talked about this before, and today we're announcing another truly great deal. I love this deal, and it's rooted in the principle of potential. This is about unlocking the full potential of every American, the grandmother, the grandfather, the father, the son, by unlocking access to affordable life-saving medications that make a meaningful difference in their lives when they need them most. That's what today delivers. It's a deal built on principle for people, for the American people, and backed by policy that works. So the most important step to getting healthy is believing that your life has value, that God meant for each of us to have purpose and joy and to live fully. And to do that, we must be good stewards of our body. And the president has been fighting to provide another tool to do just this and enable this. And it's my pleasure to get to outline the contours of the deal today. So first and foremost, customary with the 3 prior announcements, all of the customary most favored nation terms that you've grown familiar with apply to these 2 deals. So this is actually deals 4 and 5. Full Medicaid portfolios today at most favored nation prices. Shared savings from existing drug prices in Europe deployed back to the United States. All primary care drugs at U.S. net prices or most favored nation prices available on TrumpRx before the end of the year. And most importantly, all future drug launches across commercial, Medicaid, Medicare, and the cash markets at most favored nation prices going forward. Now, GLP-1s. So first, under this agreement, starting doses of oral GLP-1s will cost just $149 a month for everyone. That's roughly 1/8 the cost of the list price today. For Medicare, manufacturers are voluntarily reducing their prices for GLP-1s currently used for diabetes and other covered indications to $245 per month across all doses. The savings generated from this change in prices will be used to provide new coverage to obesity and those who struggle with obesity and also have high metabolic or cardiovascular risk. Again, all for the same $245 a month. That means Americans struggling with diabetes and obesity, with heart disease, or other chronic conditions can access these life-changing drugs more affordably. Medicare patients, importantly, will only pay $50 a month for a copay. This is a massive reduction from what happens today. For Medicaid, Novo and Lilly have agreed to extend the same new low government pricing to all 50 state Medicaid programs should they opt in. And we encourage them to opt in, and these will be available not just for diabetes and current covered indications, but also for obesity again. And in case you're getting tired of me saying it, at the same price of $245 a month, all covered doses. On TrumpRx, the average price of injectables and orals will start at $350 on average. That's compared to roughly $500 today. And that will trend down to, you guessed it, the same $245 a month over the next 24 months. That is 1/5 of the list price. It is 1/2 of the best price in the United States today. We're hoping, Mr. President, that your friend who has to travel to England to afford these drugs will no longer need to do so and can come and do it in the United States. I'll also just mention that the $149 is $1 less than what you asked us to achieve. Just gonna make sure that's clear. So I want to highlight 2 other really important points that make me love this deal so very much. First, this isn't about spending more, it's about spending smarter. The savings from the diabetes drug price reductions are being used in a cost-neutral way to fund the new indications for taxpayers. That's amazing, and that happens inside of that same 24-month period. It's cost neutral. We're spending the money more wisely. But second, this isn't just about lower drug prices for Americans, though it does do that, but together with physical activity, with healthy eating and diet, and where appropriate, the use of breakthrough GLP-1s, the real return on investment is healthier Americans, lower chronic disease, lower costs, we estimate by tens of billions of dollars a year, and most importantly, higher productivity. Today is about freeing Americans from the weight, literally and figuratively, that holds us back. It's about unlocking the potential of every citizen to live fully, to contribute fully, and to find joy in their health. We cannot reach our full potential as a nation if we do not reach our full potential as individuals. And we cannot reach our full potential as individuals if we are not healthy. Thanks to Nova and Lily for showing up so constructively over the last several months to make this possible. In particular, thanks to you, Mr. President, for again demonstrating that you fight for every American, this time for potential. It's now my sincere pleasure to first introduce Dave Riggs from Lilly and then Mike Dusto from Nova.
Great, thank you, Chris. It's truly an honor to be here today for this historic step forward to expand access to a class of medications that can fundamentally change the arc of chronic disease in our country. Of course, these are the incretin or GLP-1 agonist that we've been speaking about. For nearly 150 years, my company, Eli Lilly, has been investing in America. We've been advancing science and creating high-value jobs. But today, are you okay? Gordon, you okay? Yeah.
Press out. Press. We're going. Thank you, press. Press. Guys, cameras. We're done with
All right, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching a meeting from the Oval Office, to which President Trump announcing a deal surrounding all things with regard to obesity. During that meeting, just minutes ago, apparently one of the gentlemen standing in that was set to speak had a seizure of some sort, obviously a medical emergency taking place within the White House. We saw the staff looking to attend to the man that apparently fainted. We are trying to get more information, and when that happens, we'll make sure we'll bring that to you live, yet again, right here on the Live Zone. This occurring just minutes after the president announcing a deal that would allow some obesity drugs to be sold to Americans for around $150. The agreement would also allow the drugs to be covered by Medicaid to treat obesity, while it would require Medicare to cover the drugs for obese Americans who are also at high risk for health problems. As the president making that announcement, flanked by a number of other members from his cabinet, yet again, a gentleman standing, waiting to address the media as well, apparently fainted. And we'll try to get more information on that. Tell you what, we'll take a quick break. We'll recap and come right back. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 40 minutes past the top of the hour. We are following a developing story out of the White House, where just minutes ago, President Trump announcing a deal that will allow obesity drugs to be sold to Americans for a cheaper price. Now, obviously, that being the big story, however, it was trumped, if you will, no pun intended, with regard to a gentleman that he happened to be flanked by, apparently having some sort of medical emergency. We're trying to pull that up again so we could replay it for you, but obviously cameras within the Oval Office when this actually occurring. The gentleman appeared to have passed out, if you will, and the immediate staff then running to actually make sure that he happened to be okay. We haven't gotten any word as yet, and we're hoping to get an official on and or a doctor, perhaps that can give us some more insight to what happened. But yet again, a gentleman that happened to be standing very close to President Trump appeared to have some sort of medical emergency as the president and the cabinet making an announcement surrounding all things with regard to obesity drugs. Joey, do we have the video? All right, let's go ahead and pull it up. And obviously, guys, this is fluid, and so let's go ahead and pan to this. And you're taking a look at what happened just minutes ago, and yet again, the gentleman standing behind the podium appeared to have a medical emergency. You see the president standing behind the desk, if you will, as a number of, well, it looks like first responders, if I can tell correctly. All right, obviously we have that on a loop, and we wanted you to hear some of the audio as well. But scary moments inside the Oval Office as we're still trying to get the identity of the man that appeared to have a medical emergency, but it fainted. That's what we are assuming, while the president made mention of all things surrounding drugs to hope, well, in essence, curtail obesity. We'll continue to follow this developing story. As soon as we get some information, we'll pass it along to you. Obviously, this all occurring on day 37 of the government shutdown, and, well, it appears to be no end in sight. That one story. The other, Nancy Pelosi announcing that she will not run for re-election next year. Her decision caps off a historic House tenure, which has spanned some 40 years. Pelosi will always be remembered as first woman and first Italian-American to serve as Speaker of the House. Here to discuss her long career and today's decision, we welcome former Time Magazine senior reporter and professor of political science at St. Peter's University, Professor Alan Sanders. Mr. Sanders, always good to see you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
So, what do you think about Pelosi, who from all indications loved serving in the House, but at this very moment has now decided to step aside?
Well, you know, smart politicians know when to stop when they're ahead. Whether it's age or whether it's political realities, you quit while you're ahead. And I think in her case, it's mostly age. I mean, she's an elderly woman, and she's served decades in the House. And I think she decided, okay, I'm done. I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. People, respect me, understand what I did. And so, good time to quit.
Overall, what do you think her congressional career will most be remembered for?
Well, I think she'll be remembered as one of the most effective speakers in the history of the United States. She certainly knew how to count the votes, unlike the current speaker, by the way. She rarely, I don't think she ever lost a vote. She knew to bring things to the floor, and that's one of the important powers of the speaker, when to bring things to the floor. But in terms of substantive policies, she'll certainly be remembered for Obamacare, and she will also be remembered for standing up to President Trump while she was speaker.
I'm curious, should this really be seen as a wider changing of the guard, if you will, as more baby boomer politicians retire and younger politicians are elected?
Yeah, I think so. There's always a changing of the guard. Generations change, new generations evolve, and clearly the power brokers of the past, the baby boomers power broker, are moving on in age, and so it's time for a change of the guard. I think that's normal. It always happens, and there's nothing unusual about it.
Of course, the big question happens to surround who will now actually end up in her seat, something that folks are already discussing, and also surrounds whether or not it will remain in the hands of the Democrats.
It probably will. I mean, we just saw in the last elections that California produced a huge Democratic surge when it came to redistricting, and there's every expectation to believe that that Democratic surge is likely to continue in California. So I would think that it's likely, very likely, that her seat will remain in Democratic hands.
Mr. Sanders, will end with this, and that is ultimately, what will be her legacy?
Well, her legacy will be that of an effective speaker, but her legacy continues to this day in terms of Obamacare. She really shepherded through Obamacare. It really should be called Congress Care, because together with Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, they really pushed Obamacare through Congress. President Obama sponsored it, but he basically stayed out of the action at critical points. So it was really Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid that made this come to be. And so I think her legacy in terms of legislative achievements will be Obamacare, or what I often call Congress Care.
Well said, sir. Yet again, former Time Magazine senior reporter and professor of political science at St. Peter's University, Professor Alan Sanders. Always good to see you, my friend. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, a new report from Constant Contact shows the overwhelming majority of small businesses say most of their yearly revenue comes during the holiday season. Now, that leads us to ponder, why is shopping small so impactful to the economy, and how are small businesses faring? Enter my next guest. I'm referring to Mr. Dave Charest. He is the Director of Small Business Success for Constant Contact and kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Dave, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good to see you again, Guy. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so it's something that, as you heard me make mention, we continue to ponder, and that is, can you explain why the holiday season is such a critical time for small businesses?
Yeah, well, as we saw in the report, Constant Contact does these to kind of keep their pulse on what's going on there. And as you mentioned, yeah, up to 60% of the small businesses really earn up to half their revenue during this period. And so it's the most wonderful and most chaotic time of the year for so many people. And so there's a lot of pressure really on owners because of it. And as you might imagine, more particularly in the retail sector. But I think the interesting thing here about this is that despite the high stakes of this time, 77% of the owners that we spoke to are actually confident that they're going to meet their revenue targets for this year.
With that being said, yet again, we're focusing on the holidays. And, well, yes, it's that time of the year. 'Tis the season to, well, I guess, shop until you drop. And so with thinking about that, are there certain things that you have observed during the holiday season with regard to, well, folks going out and purchasing the items that they want to get for gifts?
Yeah, so a few things are really happening here, just in terms of when you think about consumers, for example. On the consumer side, there's a lot of things happening right now. And so as things change and what's going on in the economy and things like that, on the consumer side as well as the business side, people are kind of changing how they're thinking about things they're doing. And so we see on the consumer side that people are obviously looking for deals. Majority of people are looking for those deals and discounts. But In addition to that, they're also actually shopping earlier, and they're also planning on buying fewer items. And so there's a couple of things that come out of that for the business owner, for example, is one, like start thinking about your marketing earlier on in this cycle, so that you're getting those people that are looking to shop earlier, and then look for ways to offer. It doesn't necessarily have to be a discount, but it has to be something that has some perceived value for the customer in terms of you maybe bundling things together or offering something that they might not get if they were to purchase that someplace else. So it's that unique experience that really you can kind of lean in on. And the big thing here is that people do want to shop small.
Yet again, vital information, Dave. What marketing strategies do small businesses often employ to really maximize their revenue?
Yeah, I think a big thing right now during this time period, social media plays a big part in this because people are just really in tune to what's happening on those platforms that they're spending their time on, and they're on the lookout for those deals, as I mentioned. I think a big thing here for small businesses to take advantage of is to lean into that small messaging. People do want to support you. We've seen the customers that are the businesses that are having success are really looking for efficiencies in their business during this time. That means saving them time with their marketing efforts. So I think it's embracing that technology, like tools like Constant Contact, for example. But I think the big thing too is also thinking just beyond this holiday season. Businesses and consumers like to come back to businesses they purchased from in the past, and they're open to purchasing them in the future. And so it's really important to think just beyond this moment in time and think about what you can do to stay top of mind consistently in the new year as well.
Yet again, something we'll have to keep top of mind as we approach the holiday seasons. As I continue to say that, David, it just reminds me that, yes, it is the month of November. Aside from immediate revenue, what long-term benefits can small businesses gain from the successful holiday season?
Well, I think this is the big thing, is that consumers, as I mentioned, they want to come back to businesses that they are used to. 72% of them actually return to those small businesses. And they like to, 88% of them, I think these are big numbers, right, like to return to the same businesses after the holiday season. And so it's really that opportunity to take advantage of that, because we often just get stuck in that moment of time to think beyond that, so that you're keeping top of throughout the year, so you're not as completely reliant, but also on the holiday season, but also stimulating sales throughout the earlier parts of the year as well.
Yet again, we are thinking and discussing all things surrounding the holidays, and it is fastly approaching. So we'll end with this. The big takeaway, what is it me as the consumer should really think about as I, venture out to really go about to purchase gifts during this time of the year?
Yeah, the big thing is that small businesses, when you shop locally, they're obviously, leaning on you for this time period. When you shop locally, those dollars are going to recirculate within your local economy. That's 2 to 4 times more than if you're a non-local company. And if you think about even every $1 spent at a local business, 2/3 of that actually stays in your local economy as well. And so choose those businesses that are local to you and represent the quality, the character, and the community that you live in.
Been speaking with Dave. David, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for that vital information. We truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, folks, it is now 12:53, 53 minutes past the top of the hour. Obviously, we have been following all things surrounding what took place within the Oval Office just minutes ago. According to our sources, a gentleman by the name of Gordon Findlay with Novo Nordisk apparently had some sort of a medical emergency
for nearly
while
150
standing
years,
next to the
my company,
none other than
Lilly,
the president.
has been investing in
And
America.
so with that being said, we'd like to now go to Corinne, who was actually at the White House when this occurred. Corinne, I wish it happened to be under better circumstances, but were you in the Oval Office when this occurred?
Inside the Oval Office, because as you can hear, my voice is recovering. But I want to tell you something really interesting. This actually happens often at the White House when President Trump gave Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Honor. Laura Ingram's son fainted. When Dr. Oz was getting sworn in, one of his granddaughters fainted. So actually at the White House, we have 24/7 ambulance. We have people emergency care. And so honestly, this will be okay. And I want people to know that this does happen because people do get intimidated by standing in front of the cameras. And so I care so much about the topic, and people should be concerned, but it happens more often than not. And so just don't worry, the White House has the best medical care. I wasn't there right then because I'm fixing my voice, but trust me on this, it'll be fine. And the fact that President Trump is going to give Ozempic at a cheap rate to pretty much every American starting in January is really going to change the health of the whole United States of America. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Yet again, gentleman identified to our knowledge as Mr. Gordon Findley, suffering some sort of medical emergency, standing next to the president within the Oval Office minutes ago, perhaps. We are assuming that he fainted. Corinne, I can tell you, I remember as a teenager, I happened to be in ROTC, and one of the things that they would always say is do not lock your knees because, well, quite honestly, you could faint. Shortly thereafter. When this occurred, do we know if he stayed within the Oval Office? Was he whisked away to the hospital? Do you have any information surrounding that?
So what happens is that when you faint or you have an accident at the White House, of course, they make all the press leave. And then obviously they don't give us the exact circumstances. But the bottom line is that there is emergency EMTs right then and there. There's a medical area and they treat you right then and there. If he needs to go to a hospital, obviously he will get to a hospital. Doctor is an incredible person and he knows how to handle this stuff. Believe me, if you faint anywhere, if anything happens to you, if you have a mini heart attack, you want to be at the White House. This is the safest place to be when an emergency happens.
Yeah. Do we know if Mr. Findley's family happened to be there as well? Typically, when an event like this occurs, of this caliber, you would expect him to be flanked by, or them rather, to be flanked by their family. Did the president say anything to address, let's say, the reporters and or the press that happened to be within the room once the cameras cut off?
Well, what happens is that the press secretaries and the assistant press people usher everyone out. They don't want you to get the footage. They don't want anyone to see this. And so bottom line is that they try to, hide it. But this was on international television, so they can't hide it. We don't know exactly everything that's happening. We don't know if his family was there. I'm sure he brought his wife to that event. But the bottom line is you can see the girls wearing white. They always push us out in an emergency like this. But I was telling you, when Charlie Kirk got the Presidential Medal of Freedom and Erica was talking, Laura Ingram's son passed out. And so I didn't report on that. I have the footage. Same thing happened with Dr. Oz. This does happen because standing in front of all the press in the Oval Office, standing at the White House, your first time to the White House, it's very intimidating to people. And so the best medical crews are right there taking care of him, so don't worry.
All right, yet again, and to your point, we have been replaying the video. Our hearts and thoughts are with Mr. Findley and his family, as it appears though he suffered some sort of medical emergency. Corinne, while I have you here, I want you to discuss and or give us your take on what the president had to say surrounding the obesity drugs that will now be sold to Americans for around $150 for a month's supply.
I think that this is some of the most incredible news that I've heard in a long time. And I know it sounds shallow. I know it sounds stupid to some people right now. But Secretary Kennedy made it very clear to us at the last press conference for the HHS that half of American children are obese and they're not healthy enough to even serve in the U.S. military. So we do have a major obesity problem because our country, we like to eat processed food. And it's very important to solve this problem for the health of everyone concerned. And so having this important medication, which was only available to the super rich, it was $1,000 to $2,000 per month. You could get more if you wanted to do it. The Kardashians use it.
I think we had our own.
Some of the most famous celebrities in the world use it. The most expensive zip codes in the world buy it the most. They ship it to your house direct. You can inject yourself or take a pill. I think this is really amazing that President Trump is allowing the masses to have this very critical medication because it does work.
Corinne, we'll end with this, and we were hoping that the press would be able to have at least address the president surrounding the government shutdown. That did not happen because of the medical emergency that occurred within the Oval Office. It is now day 37, to my knowledge, the longest U.S. government shutdown in U.S. history. Perhaps there's an end in sight. We're getting word that senators on both sides could maybe come to an agreement. Any rumblings out of the White House? Have you heard anything?
Of course, yesterday at our press conference, they made it very, very clear that we have to end this federal government shutdown because there's people who live paycheck to paycheck and they can't afford to not have this paycheck. And so obviously, the Republicans, President Trump, want to end the federal government shutdown, but it really is the Democrats who are blocking it because they want to do whatever they can do to make President Trump look bad. I got stuck in a very serious anti-Trump protest yesterday. I was walking out of a lunch meeting and I got surrounded by a crowd of hundreds of people paid by an Antifa group called Flare. And so I'm very concerned that there's a lot of paid protesters, and I'm very concerned that the Democrats in Congress are using this government shutdown to try to make President Trump look bad. This is not President Trump's fault, and everyone should be calling their two members of Senate and their member of Congress and tell them open the government because it needs to happen ASAP. I've been told it's going to take longer because obviously Pelosi and Schumer, we call it the Schumer shutdown, they're getting so much publicity. Hakeem Jeffries, they're getting so much publicity from this. The Democrats love to see the Republicans and President Trump suffer, but the bottom line is there is so much money on the Democrat side. Why don't they, instead of protesting President Trump, why don't they get to the Walmarts and to the low-end grocery stores and help the moms and children who are on the SNAP program and give them food?
Well, one thing's for sure, Corinne, no matter what side of the fence you stand on, I think we can all agree we want this government shutdown, yet again, now the longest in U.S. history, to come to an end. Corinne, you have been so kind. We appreciate you hopping on at last minute's notice, and we thank you so much for doing just that and hope to have you back on sometime in the near future. Yet again, Ms. Corinne Clifford joining us live from the White House. We'll chat soon. We'll now turn our attention to Rachel Strauss. She is a public healthcare analyst, joined us recently right here on the Live Zone. And Rachel, we reached out to you because obviously it's the big story of the hour. Well, just minutes ago, within the Oval Office, President Trump, flanked by a number of officials, a gentleman by the name of Gordon Findlay, to what we believe he has now been identified with Novo Nordisk, had some sort of medical emergency. I don't know if you've seen it, but go ahead and let's take a look.
No, I did not see this.
So it appears to me, and yet again, I am obviously no medical official of some sort, but it appears to me that the gentleman passed out and or is having a seizure. From what you were able to see and view right here, what are you gathering?
I mean, there's some form of an emergency happening. And if anybody was in this type of circumstance, you would want to call 911. You certainly would want to make sure the patient, whoever this is happening to, is lying on the ground and, that people are giving them space, especially if they're having a seizure. But 911 needs to be called immediately.
So it's really interesting how all of this unfolds right before our very eyes, Rachel. We just got word that the White House now stating that the gentleman is okay and that the press conference will resume shortly. Obviously, when that happens, we'll take you back to the Oval Office. While I still have you, Rachel, I made mention of this to Corinne earlier, and that is typically when you are standing for quite some time, and I know I did this in ROTC, your legs somewhat lock, and then you can get a little dizzy. Perhaps that's what happened?
Again, I'm not a medical professional by way of training in any capacity, but yes, it looks like that can happen. It's just something as simple as your electrolytes becoming imbalanced. So definitely need to stay hydrated if you're going to be standing for long periods of time. But again, given the video footage we're seeing, I'm glad to hear that he's okay, but definitely would recommend some form of medical intervention.
All right, well said. Yet again, we've been speaking with Rachel Strauss, public health care analyst, joining us right here on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time.
Always. Thank you so much.
All right,
I hope
folks.
he's okay.
Yeah, White House stating that he is okay. And yet again, that press conference set to resume any minute now. We'll take a quick break, guys. It's now 1:05. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, it's that time of the year again, time for the annual Senior Bling, a time in which we honor the contributions of the District 2 senior community. The afternoon event brings out the best in style, filled with joy, laughter, great food, music, and so much more. Did I make mention it's spearheaded by Prince George's County Council member and candidate for State's Attorney, Juanita Fisher. She joins us now right here on the Live Zone. Ms. Fisher, always good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Guy. Always good to see you.
All right, so it's all things celebratory. In this case, we're talking about honoring and recognizing seniors that are doing amazing things in your district.
Yes, I'm so excited for our third annual Senior Bling. As you know, times have been so hard here in Prince George's County with all the things that insane administration is doing. And it's really a time to celebrate our seniors, give back, especially seniors are in need. They're struggling with paying their rent or housing costs with medical care. And the Senior Bling gives us a time to celebrate, receive county services. We're going to have food given away with everything that's going on. So it's going to be really, really exciting. And it's coming up this coming Friday. So I'm very excited to be with our senior community. And it's the first time we opened up registration across the county. So we're going to be in the Prince George's Ballroom and have a lot of seniors across Prince George's County joining us.
Yeah, we're looking at B-roll from last year where our very own Marissa Mitchell apparently emceed the event alongside you.
Did.
How
They
cool
loved
is that?
it.
Yeah, I'm
It
sure
was
they
so
do.
cool. The seniors really, so many of my senior community are huge fans of you, Guy and Marissa. You're in their homes every single day, and it's so nice for them to have that personal interaction and also just know their stories matter and their stories are newsworthy. And the legacy that we all stand on is important. So I'm really excited to support my seniors during this difficult time, during this federal shutdown, but also celebrate the season and celebrate their accomplishments to Prince George's County.
I'm glad you touched on that because we'll have to end with this, Ms. Fisher, and that is all things surrounding the government shutdown. Now, day 37. SNAP benefits, well, for so many seniors, they rely on them, but that's not the case as it currently stands. Perhaps some encouraging words you can share with your constituents.
I would say that here in Prince George's County, we are wrapping our arms around. I don't know what I was listening to before I got on, but we are feeding our community. There's a food giveaway here in Prince George's County every couple of days. Our county executive and the entire council is stepping up at this time when we shouldn't have to, when our government should be working for us, not against us. And I think our church community has been amazing. Mission of Love, my own home church, Redeemer's Church of Christ, we gave out thousands of bags of food on this last Saturday. So the entire community in Prince George's County is stepping up. We're here, and everyone in my county that is struggling with the shutdown, we are going to get through this time together. We've gone through rough times together before, and we're going to make it on the other side together.
All right. Yet again, we have been speaking with Juanica Fisher, council member and yet again candidate for state's attorney in Prince George's County. Ms. Fisher, always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you for everything you do.
You got it. Well, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi announced earlier today that she will not run for re-election next year. Her decision caps off a historic House tenure, which has spanned some 40
Dear
years.
San Francisco.
Now, Pelosi will actually always be remembered as, well, the first woman and the first Italian-American to serve as Speaker of the House. Joining us now to discuss her many achievements and so much more is Mr. Eric Faddis, attorney and political strategist, back here on the Live Zone. Eric, always good to see you.
Great to be with you, Guy.
All right, so Erica, what do you think of Pelosi actually stating that she no longer wants to do this, in so many words, to put it short? In all indications, she loved doing this within the House, but, well, she's now decided to step aside.
Well, Guy, as a fellow Italian, she was always talked about in my family and her accomplishments and that kind of thing. I think it's time. I think it's absolutely time. She has had a storied career as a public servant, many accomplishments, some criticisms as well. But I think that now is really the time to sort of step aside and let the new guard take hold. We saw Mamdani's win in New York recently, and I think sort of that cohort is starting to emerge, and folks of Nancy's generation are appropriately giving them room to do that. You know,
it's interesting you bring that up, Eric, because the big question is, will her seat remain in the hands of a Democrat?
Yeah, I think it's likely, in San Francisco and that locale that she represents, it is historically leaned left. And talking about her successor, one potential option, Guy, I think, is her daughter, Christine Pelosi, who has a high position in the Democratic National Committee. She's very prominent in the California Democratic Party. And I think we could see this seat potentially stay in that family bloodline as things move forward.
Ultimately, Eric, we'll end with this. Her legacy. What will her legacy be?
I think a number of things. You look at her accomplishments. A lot of people view, her helping pass Obamacare as a premier accomplishment during her tenure. On top of that, in encouraging and increasing diversity in terms of public representation, especially at the federal level. According to NPR, when she started, there were a lot less women who were in such positions, a lot less women of color and people of color. That has substantially changed due in part to her efforts to make a push for that kind of thing. And so I think that those will be remembered in terms of her legacy.
Yet again, Mr. Eric Faddis, attorney and political strategist, joining us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Always good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Well, a massive headache for travelers as we now enter day 37 of the federal shutdown. The FAA ordering a nationwide reduction in flights starting tomorrow. The agency says it's working to relieve pressure on overworked air traffic controllers. All this as President Trump now turning up the pressure on his own party to end the shutdown. The president now demanding Senate Republicans get rid of the filibuster. The Senate did not vote on a measure to open the government yesterday, and it's unclear if they will do so today. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Andrea Kaye, Radio host and political strategist back here on the Live Zone. Hey, Andrea, always good to see you.
Back at you. It's always fun to be with you, Guy.
All right, it's been a busy day, and thank you so much for being patient, Andrea. Let's start off with the big news surrounding taking the friendly skies. The sky's not so friendly right now. We know that we got word that the FAA will now reduce flights by 10% starting tomorrow. If I can recall, Andrea, about a week ago, you were sitting right here next to me, and now you're back in California. It appears you got home just in time.
Well, yeah, we have a saying in the South, we got to get while the getting is good. And I'm glad that I got my get on last week, because it is about to get even uglier in the unfriendly skies. It's about to get uglier than an old Maury Povich episode of Who's Your Daddy? That's how bad it's going to get.
I know we're making light of this, but obviously we have seen TSA agents and a number of air traffic controllers really suffering, meaning that they are showing up to work, doing an amazing job, but yet they are yet to receive a paycheck, and the bills continue to roll in. I'll pose the question again. Will we see an end to this government shutdown?
Well, I think that we will, and I wasn't making light because, and I'm glad you said that, because I did make a joke. But when I was traveling last week, I thanked every TSA person who was working there for coming in and going to work. And one gal said to me at Reagan National, she said, "Thank you, Andrea." She said, "My back is hurting." She said, "My legs are hurting." I said, "I know they are." And I said, "And you all are hurting, and so are so many other federal workers and so many other Americans that are being punished for leverage." Let's not forget that the Democrats, we're into day 37, Guy, because the Democrats have admitted to saying this is the only leverage we have. And we know that we're inflicting pain out there, but this is our leverage. So, and I think that the American people understand well who's inflicting pain on them for power. It seemed to me and to everybody that they were inflicting this pain to try to get past a couple of dates. One was the elections that took place Tuesday, as well as November 1, when the subsidies, the open enrollment for the Unaffordable Care Act was opening up, and people were going to be hit with a little sticker shock on their subsidies. I think now that we've gotten through that, I think the Democrats feel like they are probably going to hopefully come to their senses and realize that it's just continuing to damage their own constituents, and it's the law of diminishing returns. They need to reopen the government.
All right, let's move on to the Supreme Court now weighing the legality of President Trump's tariffs. The justices heard arguments yesterday after the High Court agreed to fast-track the case. The tariffs will stay in place until the court makes a decision. Where do you foresee this going, Andrea?
Well, I've got to disclose, I'm not an attorney, but I had a former assistant prosecutor and on my show and other attorneys yesterday to give their legal analysis on it. And they think that it's not going to go President Trump's way, because we even had alleged conservative justices like Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett asking questions about, once we give this power over to the executive, what's the ability to claw it back? I know that members of the Trump administration, I think Scott Bessent and others, are hopeful that the Supreme Court is going to rule their way. I think what's likely to happen, based on the legal experts on my show, is that they're going to come back and say, okay, you had a right, they're going to split the baby. You had a right to use, there was an emergency, so you did these tariffs. The emergency is over. Now going forward, no more tariffs, because the problem for the country, for the world, and the Supreme Court at this point is, how do you get the toothpaste back in the tube with the money that's come in, investments that have been promised, the impact from the tariffs? It's really quite a mess.
All right, you heard the phrase, it's a celebration. Well, apparently that's the case for President Trump, celebrating his one-year mark since winning a second term in the White House. Yesterday in Miami, he discussed his economic agenda, really boasted once again that America is the hottest country in the world because of his policies. Do you agree?
Well, I'm not crazy about that phrasing, to be honest, Guy. It's like, we're not talking about a brand of soda or a new brand of fashion that's been released, in terms of being the hottest country. What I think he should be doing is touting his economic results. And I think had they done that more effectively in the lead up to yesterday's elections or Tuesday's elections, it might have had a different outcome. Look, the big fat beautiful bill actually it included no tax on tips, which was a major agenda item in the campaign. No tax on overtime. They found an end around to end tax on Social Security. They could have talked about the impact, the lowering. Remember when it was like $10 a carton of eggs? We've got low price of eggs now, and we've got 2 million Americans back at work. There's so much that he could be touting for his economic success besides those little kitschy lines.
We'll have to leave it there. Yet again, Andrea Kaye from The Andrea Kaye Show. Real quick, what are you working on this week on the show?
Well, this week, I'm going to be talking tonight and beyond, continuing to talk about MAHA. There was a major announcement that was made today in the White House involving GLP drugs, and it can be kind of a complicated issue. And I've been doing a lot of segments on MAHA. We're also going to continue to be talking about what are the real world implications on citizens and businesses in New York City with a new communist mayor. So much to talk about in the days coming.
Good stuff. Truly appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone. Andrea Kaye, ready to go host and political strategist. We'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It's time for a little celebrity dish on a Thursday. Well, look who we have here. Poet Taylor from WPGC Midday Shenanigans joins us to do just that. Hello, my friend.
Oh, it's so good to see you. I love you in this suit.
Well, thank you,
I've been watching
Poet.
you all day, and yes, guy.
Well,
yes.
Well, okay, you're about to make me blush, but I guess we need to move on before I have to go see HR. Poet, let's talk a little Michelle Obama, shall we? We're making reference to the First Lady. Michelle Obama has released her new book. She was on the Sherry Shepherd show today, and hopefully
month anniversary of the fire, over 400 survivors gathered and wrote 1,500 postcards to Ricardo Lara asking him to do his job and enforce the laws. We have sent him letters. We have held press conferences. We've been working. Any other final questions before we move on to the next segment of our program?
That would be your job as reporters to find out and do the.
Five Live Zone on a Feel Good Thursday. Well, look who walked into the building.
I know, guys, it's been a little bit of time. Just
My
a
friend,
little pause. Yes.
Alex Tolbert, none other than media personality extraordinaire. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, too. I love, you know that we're just friends, so when I hear you talk about, I'm like, what are you saying? Like, hey, guy, what's
Hey,
up?
girl.
Hey,
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
We're going to have some fun today.
Yes,
we are discussing some of the stories you, my friends, are chit-chatting about at home.
Yeah.
We call this our Thursday Talkers. This first one, well, my mother told me never ask a woman her age, so I can't ask if you're a Gen Z or not. Just play along with me, okay?
Yeah, okay.
In this case, a new study talking about, well, favorite places within the home for Gen Zers. Apparently, a lot of Gen Zers
at 90% off, and then we cap the price of insulin for Medicare patients at $35.
And Biden tried to take credit for it.
Yeah, it was in your first term.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. We did it,
Yeah.
and then it came through during the early part of his term, and he tried to take credit. So we did the best we could to let him know that didn't happen. He got a little lucky, but I always said, frankly, I said, this is not good, because statutorily it had to wait a little while, and it came out at $35 instead of some crazy amount, right, David? And they stood up and they said what a great job they did. No, that was done by Trump and Lilly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we solved a major problem together. It's now law. Today when I get mail, it's quite frequently from patients who are just having amazing success on our weight loss medications, but they too are finding it out of reach, particularly America's seniors in Medicare. So this spring, in this very office, I met with the President and Secretary Kennedy, Administrator Oz, and others to figure out how to tackle this problem. And of course, unlocking obesity treatment is critical to chronic disease management. So is diet and exercise. But we wanted to open up that access for millions of Medicare beneficiaries and Medicaid as well. And again, the President saw this opportunity, and we left the room and he asked us to solve it. So 7 months later, we're here. Medicare coverage with a $50 cost to patients per month. That's down from Medicare patients today, if they want access to our medicine, pay $500 a month out of pocket. Drug coverage is critical to health improvement. And we're not just treating the weight here, that's important. We're changing the course of chronic disease. Our medicine cut progression from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes by 94% after 3 years in major studies. And many studies have shown the benefits that Dr. Oz spoke about with cardiovascular risk reduction. This agreement also accelerates approval of a new treatment that are easier to take and highly effective, like our once-daily oral pill or Forglipron. And we have other treatments in development, and those will be included, along with other manufacturers' latest treatments when they become available. So as drug coverage expands, so does choice, and data shows that medicines work differently for different people. Some are better for some, weight loss and weight maintenance, and we really believe that doctors and patients should choose the best option So it's important that this deal includes both of the leading innovators and manufacturers of this transformational new class of medicines. Medicare coverage is a milestone, but it's probably only the beginning. We call on states, on employers, on commercial insurers, even PBMs, to join and expand coverage at affordable prices for all Americans. And Lilly stands ready to partner across the healthcare system to make that happen. Just as we've achieved this partnership with Chris and Inma and John, who helped us from CMS to make this day possible. And we're anxious to get started with this. As early as April 1, this coverage can begin for our medicines and Novo's medicines. And I just want to say it's hard to overstate the impact of this day. It's really a turning point in the fight against chronic disease and a landmark achievement for President Trump and Secretary Kennedy, as well as, of course, our company. But most importantly, it empowers people to take control of their own health, to eat well, to exercise, of course, avoid harmful substances, and where appropriate, in consultation with your doctor, access affordable now obesity medications that are really a breakthrough. And we believe that when America is healthy, America is strong. And at Lilly, our goal is the same here, to invest in science, invest in our country, deliver breakthrough medicines, and reduce and then prevent chronic disease, all to make our country strong for generations to come. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll introduce Mike, my colleague.
Thank you so much. And before is Tom Emmer, we have one of our great leaders here. Is he in the room? Yeah, he's behind you. Where is he? Oh, hello, Tom. I was going to invite you up. How about Mrs. Emmer joining us, okay? The real boss. Come on the real boss. Mrs. Emmer. Come on up. Come on up. She's the real boss, right? Yes, it is. There she is. Okay, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President, Secretary Kennedy, Administrator Oz, FDA Commissioner, Dr. McCurry, and the whole team. I'd like to especially thank Chris Klump and Imna Hernandez for your hard work. I also like to thank my own team, Dave Moore and Karsten Knudsen, for their tenacity in getting us here today. It's an honor also to be with you, Dave. Dave and I compete on a daily basis, quite hard, I would say. But because of you and because of this process and the administration, we are standing here hand in hand as friends to have a common cause. And the cause is to really provide access to many millions of patients that yesterday did not have it. So I'm very happy to be here on this today, on today's pivotal moment. At Novo Nordisk, we believe that access to life-changing medicine should not be a privilege. It is a societal promise, and that promise today is becoming one step closer to a hope, to a reality, and we are very, very happy about it in our company. We are here because semaglutide is a unique molecule. Ozempic and Wegovy are unique medicines. I cannot remember any other time during at least my lifetime that another medicine has gotten as much attention and as much honor in the world scientific circle and has become a household name. It is very, very important that we're making this deal today. We're able to stand here with you, President, and your team to ensure broad, affordable access for all American patients, and that is truly exciting. It means not only providing hope, but also providing unique medicines to help Americans live healthier lives and longer lives. Novo Nordisk is proud to be an American success story. As a leader, in manufacturing, research, and creating a lot of jobs. Currently, we have already invested $24 billion over the last 10 years here, and these investments have created more than 10,000 jobs. And they have generated $21 billion of GDP just in 2024 alone. And today, as I'm standing here talking, cranes are up, as you would like to say, in North Carolina, because we're just expanding our North Carolina manufacturing site once again with $4 billion additional US. In some strange way, you could say, even though we have a Danish heritage, we have been more American and been here for a long time and proud American than many other companies that were born here. And we are very proud of that. In fact, we are proud to say that our approval of Wegovy pill will be the only GLP-1 that will be manufactured end-to-end here in America by Americans and for Americans. This agreement reflects a shared belief that the administration has provided a safe and effective, innovative medicines accessible to many patients. And because we know different patients have different needs, we are very excited to have our semaglutide 7.2 milligram, the higher dose, now, as we call it, Wegovy Plus, available as part of the receiving priority voucher. We stand here to ensure that all Americans who need Ozempic or Wegovy can access the affordable medication, so they don't need to go and get an unapproved compounded knockoffs version of it. Once again, I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to you, Mr. President, and to the whole administration for making America great again and allowing affordable access to many millions of patients living with diabetes and obesity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else? Just say a couple of words, Marty, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an amazing day because people talk about different ways to finance the broken healthcare system. This is fixing the broken healthcare system by dealing with two root causes: the price of goods and services, something hardly anyone talks about, and the health of the population. So today the FDA is announcing, as part of its new National Priority Voucher Program, that both Lilly and Novo Nordisk will be receiving a voucher for a priority review, because they're doing something in this administration's national priority interest, lowering the price of drugs to make them affordable, in line with the president's mission, and domestic manufacturing and addressing a public health need. These are 2 of 6 products that we are announcing today. Treatments for cancer that are unbelievable. They are incredibly promising. A rectal cancer treatment that has melted away tumors with no need for surgery or chemo or radiation. We're interested in therapies that reduce downstream healthcare utilization. They'll be getting a voucher for a review by the FDA in weeks instead of a year. So we're serious. We're doing everything we can to incentivize this. So I think this is not appreciated enough, because the fastest area of healthcare spending growth is drug price spending growth. And so we're seeing a lowering healthcare drug prices as a vehicle to make insurance more affordable, private insurance, Medicaid more affordable, Medicare more affordable, and healthcare in general more affordable. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Marty, very much. Any questions?
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you were able to get this deal done and so many others because of tariffs. Yesterday at the Supreme Court, the case being heard, the justices expressed some skepticism. What is your plan if they end up making a decision that's not in your favor?
Well, I'd rather discuss that later. I hope we're going to win that case. I think it's one of the most important cases in the history of our country. So much evolves around tariffs as a defensive mechanism for our country, as national security for our country. So I don't want to really discuss ground two. This is so important. If you look at China, and I covered this yesterday, but if you look at China, by putting a large 100% tariff over and above the tariffs they already paid, they came to the table, they talked, we made a wonderful deal for everybody. Our farmers, as you know, with the soybeans at levels that nobody's ever seen before, we were able to make phenomenal deals. If we didn't have the tariffs, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we thought we did very well yesterday. We hope that we did. I think it would be devastating for our country, but I also think that we'll have to develop a Game 2 plan. We'll see what happens. Most people tell me we did very well legally.
Mr. President, related to that, are you moving forward with any new tariff announcements before a decision from the Supreme Court?
This is the best one, and we can do other things, but they're slow by comparison. Like as an example, with the 100%, I was able to do it instantaneously when we were threatened by the rare earths, as you know, the magnets. And I did it instantaneously. It was a matter of seconds and it was a matter of seconds that I got a phone call, let's work this out. We would have had not nearly the defense that we had. It would be a shame. It would be somewhat catastrophic for our country, I have to be honest with you. I don't want to get too much involved, but what we've done, we're taking in hundreds of trillions of dollars. If you take a look at the numbers we have $17 trillion right now. We're going to be at $21 trillion, about $21 trillion by the time I've finished my first year. Biden, as an example, the Biden administration was at less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We're going to be at $21 trillion for 1 year. In the history of the world, there's never been a country that's done that. Not China, not the U.S., not anybody. And a lot of that is because of the tariffs and the fact that the president is a competent president that knows how to use them. And I use them for national defense. Of the 8 wars I ended, I would say 5 or 6 were ended because of tariffs. I give you an example. If you take a look at India and Pakistan, they started to fight. They're 2 nuclear nations. They were shooting each other. 8 planes were shot down. There was 7, now it was 8, because the one that was sort of shot down is now abandoned. And 8 planes were shot down. And I said, listen, if you guys are going to fight, I'm going to put tariffs on you. And they both went, they were not happy about that. And within 24 hours, I settled the war. If I didn't have tariffs, I wouldn't have been able to settle that war. So it's great national defense, and you have to be quick moving. You can't wait around for months and months while you're doing studies and you're doing all of this, or go back to Congress. Look at Congress. We can't even get a continuation from Congress. Think of that. How do you have to go back to Congress you have to do this spur of the moment? Because just so you understand, we're hit spur of the moment. Other countries have used tariffs to absolutely, they would have destroyed us. If I didn't come along, our country would be destroyed right now. The tariffs have made us rich in terms of national security. They've made us secure. And if you have economic strength, that's also, if you have a lack of economic strength, that's national security also. But we have great national security because of those tariffs. So I think it would be devastating if we lost that ruling.
But before the Supreme Court issues a ruling, it could be several weeks. Are you going to lay out any new additional tariffs before?
I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to hope that we win. I can't imagine that anybody would do that kind of devastation to our country. We'd have to pay back trillions of dollars. We've taken in trillions. We haven't taken in billions. We've taken in trillions of dollars. We've made trade deals based on that give us, as an example, European Union, $950 billion. Japan, $650 billion. South Korea, $350 billion. Without this, we're not talking about that kind of money. And they're okay, they're satisfied, they love us. I just left. They all love us. So it's not like we're such bad people. But they were doing it to us until I came along. Now they don't do it to us, we do it to them a little bit. But if they took this away, we would be defenseless against tariffs from other countries.
On employer plans and individual plans who also don't have access to GLP-1s. What can you do to make those insurers and PBMs get these same prices so they can put access for those
I'll
folks?
ask Oz or Bobby that question. It's a good question.
Absolutely. Many Americans receive their insurance through the commercial markets. The companies have committed to ensure that at worst, prices are at MFN on GLP-1s and are committed to continue to negotiate those prices down based on volume, just as they do in any other instance. Another really interesting thing we're seeing, though, is that commercial plans and PBMs increasingly are enabling access for their beneficiaries, their patients, to make purchases in the cash market and then still receive coverage under their accumulators and their deductibles. And so we're building that capacity in. Absolutely. TrumpRx is being built to enable just that behavior and drive transparency in the process.
Mr. President, there are so many Americans that report tremendously positive results from these drugs. What real-world impact do you think this will be? Is there an estimate on how many Americans may now take these drugs? And also about the informed consent on side effects. There are lawsuits against these companies that some people experienced damage to their gut health, vision loss, and other potentially serious side effects there. So how will we ensure Americans are able to make the best choice of the risk versus the rewards.
Well, I'll let them speak about the side effects, but I've heard about very little side effects with respect to these drugs. I mean, it's all positive, and that's usually not the case. I mean, usually you hear bad things. You see these crazy commercials on television where they tell you 15 different things that can go wrong, and then you're supposed to buy it. Very few, but I'll let you handle that.
At a high level, 1 in 3 people who can hear my voice are eligible for these medications. That's the magnitude of impact. And we believe, just to reemphasize, we will actually save the American taxpayer money if people use these drugs appropriately for the duration for which they're indicated. There are always going to be side effects of anything strong enough to help you, strong enough to hurt you. The question is the trade-off worth it? We know the ravaging risks of obesity and all downstream issues ranging from diabetes and hypertension to renal failure, dementia, heart disease, my specialty. But I'll ask Dave Ricks from Lilly to maybe start off because he can give an honest appraisal of potential risks people should be aware of. There's no free cheese.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, today, as you may know, there's about 8 million people benefiting from the 2 companies' medications. This new announcement will make that tens of millions that could benefit from it. So it's a huge improvement. But as the previous question, we need commercial plans and other insurers to step into this arrangement. I think probably both companies will work hard to make sure that happens. Yeah, as Dr. Oz said, no drug that can help you has no side effects. Most of them are well known. We've been using this class of medications for nearly 20 years. And that's why it's important that patients go to their doctor and decide together whether this is right for them, and their doctor knows their medical history and has the information about these medications. But we're confident in the safety, but there's always some precautions we should have, and people's own medical histories matter in that decision.
And are there any estimates for...
What I would like to say is also that, of course, in my speech I made a comment that what happened today allows us and Lilly to provide medications to millions and millions more than they are getting it today. Today, a lot of those patients are trying to go out there and take the knockoff versions of these medications, mainly because they were cheaper than our medication. With the reduction of the price, hopefully many of these patients don't need to choose their safety over their wallet and now are able to find the real thing at a very decent price.
Is that a big problem for you, knockoffs? Sounds like it might be.
It has been, yes. It has been. But on the other hand, of course, patients have to be able to afford it. So it has been also our job to make sure that affordability.
Are the knockoffs dangerous?
The knockoffs are not FDA. The API, the raw ingredient that goes into them, are not FDA approved. So nothing is as good as the original.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Mr. President, yesterday in the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts said that tariffs are taxes and that they're paid by Americans. He said this pretty clearly. And yet you're saying that this money is rolling in from other countries. How do you square those two?
Well, it is. It's coming in because they've charged us. You know, those same countries that you talk about are charging us massive amounts of money. If you look at the tariffs over the years that were put on our heads, there's a reason we're $38 trillion owed. Now that money's going to start coming down. But we had presidents that didn't know how to use tariffs. We had presidents that had no understanding of business. But if you take a look at what's happened to us, every country charges tariffs. China, the European Union was brutal. They charged us tariffs, not only tariffs, they charged us tariffs so we couldn't sell cars there. We couldn't sell our product. They didn't want our agriculture. They didn't want our cars. Now they're taking our cars, and now they're taking our agriculture. You know, far more than money. It really is a defensive mechanism. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be unable to defend ourselves.
So then do you agree then that Americans are paying those tariffs?
I think, no, I don't agree. I think that they might be paying something, but when you take the overall impact, the Americans are gaining tremendously. They're gaining through national security. Look, I'm ending war because of these tariffs. Americans would have to fight in some of these wars. They're gaining in national security. They're gaining in economics. They're gaining in so many different ways. And they're gaining in self-respect for our own country. Other countries used to laugh at us. They would charge us tariffs. Japan was charging us massive tariffs, and yet they wouldn't allow our cars to be sold in Japan. But they were selling 9 million cars here, but they wouldn't allow one car. Not one car was sold in Japan. They don't laugh at us anymore. This is really a matter of, this is national security. And by the way, going bankrupt is national security. You know, our country was really in trouble. Going bankrupt, and the difference between going bankrupt and thriving, that's also national security. When you go bankrupt, when you don't have any money, you have no national security. And we are thriving. I mean, all this money coming into our country that I told you about, the 17 trillion as of now, but it's going up rapidly. I was in Japan, and we have Toyota is coming in with $10 billion to build plants, operated by Americans, but building plants all over the United States. Well, they left. They took our plants. They sold cars in here without tariffs. They sold cars. We didn't charge them anything. They destroyed our auto industry. We lost 50%, 54% of our auto industry to other. We used to, if you go back into the 30s and 40s, we had 100% of the automobile business. Then it started getting chopped away. But Mexico, Canada, many countries, I mean, Canada fought us very hard. The ones that don't want us to win are foreign countries that we are able now to do very well with. Those are the ones that fight it. Those are maybe people that hate our country. I think it's the most important case maybe in the history of our country.
This has been a major achievement for your administration, targeting the segment of our population that needs it the most, that has the highest obesity rates. You're making it affordable. You are truly saving lives. That's coming from the viewers that we've had in that 1 hour that we took a little bit of a break. My question to you is, Walmart just pushed out a report that says this year's traditional Thanksgiving meal will cost 25% less than it did under the Biden administration, plus gas prices being down in the $2 region makes it more affordable to travel to grandma's house this Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. And I read, it's not so much a question, it's a statement. I would have made the statement, but we have a lot of things happening, so I wouldn't necessarily have made it right now. So Walmart, to me, you know, that's AAA, came out that nobody's going to influence them. I don't know them. But they just came out with a very powerful statement. They've done it for many years, that under the Biden administration, Thanksgiving meal, a Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings, cost 25% more. In other words, our Thanksgiving this year coming up will cost 25% less than sleepy Joe Biden's. Now, to me, that's better than anything there is. That's better than a poll. They've got everything included, from the trimmings and from the turkey and from everything, a lot of different items. It's 25% less this year than it was last year when he was so-called in charge. He wasn't in charge. The people around the desk were in charge. The auto pen was in charge. That is a big factor. And I was angry last night with the Republicans. They say, you don't talk about this stuff. Nobody talks about it. You know, I rely on a question from a reporter to get that out. We should be talking about it because they talk about affordability. They don't have affordability. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country under Biden. We had high gasoline prices at $4.50, $5 a gallon. They're going to be hitting $2 a gallon with me. They're getting close to $2 a gallon. And when gasoline goes down and energy goes down, everything else follows. What the Democrats do is they lie. We are the ones that have done great on affordability. They've done horribly on affordability. The only thing is they go out and they take commercials how under the Democrats you have affordability. It's just the opposite. We have much lower prices than they do. And we only have one thing, beef, because the cattle ranches are doing well. We're going to bring the beef prices down. And they understand that, even if we have to help them out. But the beef also is not a big difference, but every price is down. The biggest price is energy. We're at almost $2 for gasoline, and you take a look at where they were at $4.50, $5 for gasoline. And when gasoline and energy comes down, everything else follows. And I was so happy. Last night I made a speech, and then I get off the stage. I said, I feel like going up and saying it, because I have a lot of respect for Walmart. And nobody's influencing Walmart. They came out and they said, Trump's Thanksgiving dinner, same things, is 25% less than Biden's. And we are the affordability one. We are the ones that have done a great job at affordability, not the Democrats. And yet, we just lost a couple of elections that were very Democrat areas. maybe won't be full. They weren't very Democrat when I ran a year ago because I did well in those areas. But we just lost an election, they said, based on affordability. It's a con job by the Democrats. The Democrats are only good at con and cheating on elections. Thank you for the question.
No one noticed this in the middle. Question about India.
Say it.
How is the talks with Prime Minister Modi going on a trade deal? And when
going good. He stopped buying oil from Russia.
When do you plan?
And he's a friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there, and we'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man. And I'll be going. Yeah.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle of a 10.
You're planning to go to India next year, sir?
It could be, yeah.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle of a potential $10 billion acquisition for a smaller obesity biotech. They might need your and the FTC's help to see that through. Do you have any issues with that, or Eli Lilly buying a smaller obesity biotech from an anti-competitive
Well, I don't
standpoint?
know. Do you want to talk about that? I mean, I'd like to hear it. Maybe you should give us a piece of the company, like I've been asking for.
So
give the United States a nice big chunk of the company.
So Novo Nordisk and Pfizer right now are in the middle of an acquisition dialogue and discussion.
It's you and Pfizer?
It's us and Pfizer.
Competing for the company?
Competing for the company.
Who's winning?
And as of today, our bid is higher. And our message to Pfizer is that if they would like to buy the company, then put your hand in the pocket and bid higher. It's a free market, and at the end of it, it has to do with basically the price that the seller is selling for their shareholders and the buyers willing to pay for it. This has nothing to do with FTC, has nothing to do with anything else.
Do you think it's
Is that a similar product to what we're talking about today?
It's a product, it's a series of products that will come to the market in around turn of the decade, where the market is